I now call to order this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors. We'll have a call to order with an invocation by myself, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Miller. Lord, we ask that you watch over this meeting and provide guidance and wisdom so that we may make the best decisions in the interest of our clients and the citizens of King George. In your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Miller, are there any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Moving on, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
We'll move on, closing public comment. Reports from members of the board. Ms. Binder?
No report at this time.
Ms. Cleveland?
No report.
Ms. Kupka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank staff and in Bowdoin Environmental Services for getting the word out to some of our Dahlgren customers with regard to the possibility of lead in their water due to the age of their homes and the pipes that were installed at that time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Morris, do you have anything?
I have no report, but for the record, I am attending remotely because I am out of the county this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. And for myself, I do want to thank staff. We had a bunch of people calling about some watercolor issues and in Hop Yard, and they reacted very quickly to help get that situation worked out, and I very much appreciate that and all their efforts. Moving on, consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries.
Aye.
We have no public presentations tonight, no commission and agency reports. So we move on to action items. County Attorney Freedom of Information Cost Policy and Plain English Overview. Ms. Lackey?
Good evening. As I've reported in a few recent meetings, there was a change in the law on July 1st. It does not directly apply to the Service Authority to have a FOIA cost policy. It's still, however, my recommendation that it's a good practice to have a policy. It lets your staff know what they should be doing. And then the public also has a more of an expectation of what they're getting by making a FOIA request, even though they can request a cost estimate. The Board of Supervisors updated their existing policy at their last meeting. And so what's in your packet is very similar to what the Board of Supervisors have approved. And probably the most pertinent part, it waives fees until staff time exceeds the greater of 30 minutes or $10. So typically, if you're asking a question about your bill, if you're asking for something that was in an agenda, that's something that can be pulled up very quickly. You're not going to be charged. If you're asking something that is going to require significant staff time, then the billing would occur for more than 30 minutes of staff time.
So I guess is there any discussion on the policy?
Ms. Lackey, I have a question. So we talked about this last time, and I think that it was going up in front of the Board of Supervisors as well. And we decided that we were going to wait to see if they were going to make any changes to it. And if they were, we would probably just adopt what their changes were. Was there any changes that they had made that will affect the policy that we talked about before?
So the Board of Supervisors did adopt it as written. So the Service Authority is pretty similar. I did draft a few amendments to the Board of Supervisors before they adopted it that basically made some changes at about the level of department head involvement and things like that. But the Service Authority is a much leaner organization. There's not as many levels of hierarchy, so that wasn't necessary in the draft for the Service Authority.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, the current draft that's in the packet is similar to what the supervisors adopted, sans changes that are appropriate for the structure of the Service Authority.
Correct.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess I would look for a motion.
I move to accept the Freedom of Information Cost Policy and Plain English Overview for the Service Authority.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Chair votes
Aye.
aye. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Department of Finance, appropriation of funds for the purchase of a septic truck. Ms. Hahn.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. At the Board of Directors meeting held on June 6, 2023, the board approved the award of a contract to purchase a septic pump truck. However, action was not taken to appropriate the funds. This purchase is from the $15 million line of credit. And so with that, I ask that the board appropriate the funds in the amount of $274,800 for the purchase of the septic pump truck.
Do we have any questions or comments from Ms. Hahn? All right, then I'll look for a
I
motion.
have a question, sir.
Okay. Mr. Morris?
Yeah, Ms. Hahn, just if you know, do we have a delivery time on this? Or is it gonna be like the fire department and they're talking like 2 years out before the truck's delivered?
But, I'm being told May or June of next year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion then.
I move that we appropriate the funds for the purchase of the septic pump truck for the amount of $274,800.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to discussion items. First up is the management structure for the Service Authority. We kind of talked about that earlier. Then we were working on getting in Bowden in place, and wanted to circle back on that. Just get everybody's feelings on it. I know there's a couple different options where we restructure the authority itself, where we look to move it into a utility. Both of those, I guess, are still in discussion. So what I'm thinking is it might be appropriate to have a kind of a joint meeting like we sort of did before, and reopen the kind of discussions for both avenues with the supervisors, because obviously the utility will require more than just us taking action and whatnot. So wanted to get everybody's kind of thoughts on that. Thoughts on maybe doing a joint meeting. So I'll take any comments or whatnot.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Do we have any change in posture on the part of DEQ with regards to our ability to bring this to fruition? Because I know the first time we spoke about this, they had concerns with regard to the ARPA funding that we had received and the new funding that we were to receive, the $16 million wastewater grant.
I don't know if we resolved all the issues. Have we?
There has not been any further discussions about that kind of a subject. So I think that the direction that we got at the time was, we don't want you to do anything. We want you to remain a separate utility right now because the funds are being provided to the service authority. I don't know if that's a nuanced type of a response that we could perhaps visit with them and say, you know, you're not necessarily changing the organization, you're just having it come under the county as a department, if that's the direction that you go, or is it a thing where you'd have to keep it separate for several more years? I think it's worth, you know, getting the direction from the board to seek that information from DEQ and VDH. I know that there was one particular representative of VDH, the Virginia Department of Health, Mr. Meyer, who was very much against it, and he indicated that our business plan had to show the independence of the organization from the county. He's since retired. A lot of folks that were involved in it have retired. So a lot of times, you know, it's a matter of reapproaching them. But I do think that I would need to probably have the direction, and Ms. Lackey and I could pursue that if that's something that you want to get an answer to.
Yeah, I think it's good, at least my opinion, if it's the will of the board, I think it would be good to know while we're thinking about the different options, if that's even a possibility. If it's not, then we've got to get a different structure. And so I think it would be worth knowing if the board's good with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, so why I ask that, and perhaps this is something that y'all can consider in discussions with them moving forward, is the city of Fredericksburg also received a substantial chunk of funding from the state budget last year for wastewater projects that was patroned by the same senator as ours. And my understanding is that went directly to the city of Fredericksburg. And I'm on their website, and they have a public works department. So I'm curious to hear if they faced any obstacle with regard to having too much ARPA money. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yes, ma'am, and we'll pursue that. I do think that's a good point. I don't know if that's the nature of the way it was originally organized. You know,
I don't know what the ratio
Right.
was of allowed. I don't know how that all broke out, but I mean, I think they got like $23 million.
Yes.
So yeah, if we could,
And their current structure is kind of a lot convoluted. I think the public works director and the city manager are the same person, and county or city engineer, assistant city engineer are all the same person currently.
And you know, again, it may be also a thing where we would have to sit down and show them the very clear, as they call it, a Chinese wall between the county and the service authority in terms of the funding. You can't intermix ratepayer money with general fund money and vice versa. So that would have to perhaps be shown. So there's definitely some things that we'll sit down with them and talk to them about that.
Appreciate that. And with that, you can kind of roll into the general manager's report.
All right, so we've got a couple items here for you. Got the pleasure of a couple of folks here. Let me. Okay, I'm following along. Okay, so you do have your to-do list, which is the non-capital items, and that is presented for you if you're interested. I think the big items that we are obviously excited about is the ARPA water grant, Perkins Corner decommissioning, the ARPA wastewater grant, and some of the other activities that are on this list. The meter reading, I know, is going to be cranking up here in the next couple of weeks again. And so we're excited about that. I think that project is going very well. And at the end of this presentation, we'll probably fill you in on some information about what was brought up at the last meeting in terms of the lead and copper and how we're handling that right now. And so I'll wait here on that. But I think the other thing that you can see that we're obviously making a lot of progress on a number of things. The water grant um, is flowing along really well. Excuse the pun, but it is. It's going very well. The wastewater grant, the finalizing the details. I think Mr. Young has spent a heck of a lot of time with DEQ on this and trying to keep this going, along with Miss Hahn, and so that is going to start paying some dividends here. We are restarting the inflow and infiltration project, and it's primarily down in the Dahlgren area. And then, as you see, we do fire hydrant maintenance and replacement. We work with the fire department on that. John Eisenbice's crews do, and they replace them or they, take them out of service, whatever is necessary to make sure that we have active flow, fire hydrants, and also that the fire hydrants are identified as either active or they're out of service. So that's very important. I'll certainly answer any questions on the to-do list, but let's talk about some of the other items. How about we go to the next? So the lead and copper update, and I do have Miss Norris Barker here, and she can also chime in on this. She always likes when I call on her, but we are obviously, you had a presentation from the Imboden folks at the last meeting, and we were talking about lead and copper through the AMI meter process, the replacement process. AMI's also taking and giving an inventory of each meter connection. And then what we're doing is we're forming a database that then we're going to go ahead and work to identify which ones have to be replaced, and then the process of doing that. We obviously have we've had some discussions with Imboden, and that's a viable option if we wanted to utilize them for that service. They also are doing that as part of their service to us in terms of identifying the lead and copper. But as Mr. Imboden talked about, there's a program that's going to be put in place here that's got to be done by the end of next September, I believe it is, and of 24. And we will have to identify all of the connections, if you will, and a plan to how we'll deal with that. So we're looking internally about the best options, the most cost-effective option. I think the fact that Miss Norris Barker and the Fortiline group that's doing the AMI project, the meter replacement project, got that information. They're getting that information was really important to us, and it'll be very helpful as we move forward addressing this. So I wanted to let you know that we do have a plan that we're working out. We will be coming back to you once we're ready to finalize that plan. But I do think that that's important. I think it's important for the citizens to know, the ratepayers to know, what's going on. I will tell you this, I believe the Board of Supervisors received an email from, or a letter from Miss Higgins with the school board indicating the status of the well that is at the preschool, which is not on our system. We have tested it for years as a courtesy to the schools, but that is a school-maintained well, and they did report that they did have some trace lead and copper. So they'll have a responsibility to do something about that. We will work with them as a courtesy, but I did want to let the supervisors know that that's how that will be handled. While I think we got a longer little bit of presentation here on the proposed website update, so let me jump down to, I think we've already covered it, but the Hop Yards water last week had some discolorations, and I know that Chairman Parker was all over it, and I'm sure some of you all saw it on Facebook, and I know, John, you want to give them a little brief of what you guys did, or you guys did a good job of taking care of it.
We had a complaint about Longbow and Weems So what we did is we went in, since it's a loop system, we flushed from both sides of Longbow, flushed that first, and Longbow is a dead end. So water doesn't hardly move there much. So there must have been a pretty heavy water draw. It stirred stuff up. So we had about an hour flush to get everything out of that system, but it's running clear now. Everything should be fine.
Definitely appreciated.
While I've got you up there, would you just give an update on what SAFT #1 is, where we are?
The well repacking and lining is all done. We're currently waiting on the pump, and it's coming from Italy. So it's a week to 2 weeks out probably before we get the actual pump. But everything else is done, just waiting to drop it in the hole.
And just to assure the folks in Dahlgren, the water service is good to go, and even it has been handling things ever since.
Staying right up there. And we've made the adjustments to Mama Tower, and the level's been staying right up there. We're actually going to be taking Mama Tower offline in September for 2 weeks for rehab. So it's good we got all that going. So SAP will play right into that, and we can take it offline and do it.
The other item that's on there, as I said, we jumped down, is the proposed websites and the updates and the FAQs. I have Amy Southall, who is our new Public Information Officer, Community Engagement Officer, and resident #1 Taylor Swift fan, perhaps. I don't know in terms of intensity. I know there's a lot of those around, but anyway, we wanted to, as you remember at the board meeting on the 28th of June, where the budget was adopted, there was a request to look at our FAQs and to update those. And as we got looking at these, I think Amy had come up with maybe another way of looking at this, and that is maybe you'll have some FAQs, but a lot of your FAQs could be addressed by just an proposed overhaul on the website. And so I'm going to let Amy just kind of walk you through some of the changes that we're doing. I think the key thing that we want to make sure is that the information that's on there, the links, those are up to date and as explanatory as possible so that folks have good information. Ms. Southall.
Good evening. So basically, to start with is the homepage. This originally had a lot of COVID information on it. I removed that and kept a lot of the information that we had at the bottom of the page, which just as an overview of what the service authority is, our 3 divisions, and a link to our board of directors. The FAQs that Mr. Miller was referring to, we have a few standing out here. These, I'm hard to read that, so I'm looking over here. So some of those are how to sign up and cancel your service. Can I drop off my bill at the treasurer's office? If I'm filling a pool, can my bill be adjusted? Why is my bill so high? Have I received a notice about lead and copper? What does that mean? How do I receive notifications about water and wastewater? And how can I know where water and wastewater lines are located on my property? Some of the other common questions that we were referring to based off of discussions, we're answering over here: hours of operations, contact information on the right side. We have another link on the left side menu to the board of directors page. And then here we have plans and policies, and you can direct link to these PDFs here. Then we have a link to our annual budgets. So this is an overview of what the budget is like. And what the last, all the way to fiscal year 17-18. So last few years are up here. And then we also have a link to our ACFRs. And those also have an explanation of what an ACFR is and then how those are structured. And then an overview of the same few years that we had listed on the budget. And then here is rates and billing. Some of the information I'm still working with staff and in Bowdoin to update. So we're working on that. But this is a general overview of what it will look like. So we have rates up here, and then we have billing being through Muni billing, and then how you would make a payment. And then if you go back to the Service Authority site, the home page, we have residential connection form, working on getting a commercial connection page as well. We also have an updated service area map here. And then drinking water quality reports. This is an overview of what a CCR is, and then we also have a link here to all of the CCRs from 2022, and you can direct link to your CCR for that area. And then the last thing we have is the notice that we were referring to that we posted about the lead and copper rule, which is on the homepage through a news flash. And then again, just another FAQ in case people are in the website referring back to the FAQs. It's on the left side panel. So I'm happy to take any recommendations on what you guys would like to see added or changed or adjusted. Open to any suggestions.
And we know, I'm sorry, we know that you're just getting it the first time. So obviously, if you want to take a look at it, we didn't want to just say, oh, here's our response. We wanted you guys to have a chance, add some things. If you feel that we need to put some other things on there, we're happy to do that. I think we want to make sure that we're as interactive as we can with the ratepayers.
This one is aesthetics because I wear glasses and I'm looking at the page right now and even with my glasses on close up, the type is really small. And so maybe something with the font to help those of us that need some glasses.
We were just discussing that as part of our overhaul with Civic Plus. So some of these limitations is how our contract is currently with the design. We were just discussing that when it came up here, like I can't really read that from here and it should be visible. So that is a note that we've had. Thank you, Ms. Bender.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for your work on this. It's vastly improved compared to what the page looked like before. I just had one suggestion on the rates, billing, and payment page. On the left, there is a link for the low-income household water assistance program. And we know from reading our to-do list that all of the funding for that program has been exhausted. So I don't know if we want to keep that there or not.
Yes, we had that discussion when we went over this yesterday. We wanted you all's discretion on whether or not we should remove that. If everyone is comfortable with that, we're happy to take
Yeah, I'm thinking for now, yeah, because we've exhausted the funds. If there's in another year or something, if there's more funds available, then we post that back out on like the landing page.
The other thing is that the I believe it ends after September 1. So we just didn't want to take it down yet until we kind of showed you guys. We can remove it. Did you have a lot of Ms. Norris Parker, did you have a lot of folks that were contacting us that were interested in participating in that? Okay. Okay. So we'll remove it.
Is there any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Miller. I think the last thing under discussion items is the utility report. From Bowden.
Yeah, we put your June report on then, or Dan, if you want to present it, or we had a weird meeting schedule in July, so that's why. So we know that you're going to double up in July and August, or whatever, July and August, I guess. Okay.
That works. That closes out the discussion items. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, August 15th at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned to Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. here in the boardroom.